Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Okay, welcome to the final episode because I didn't get 1 billion views in my last two. This one is just for you, Wonton Chicken Mansu. I'm not gonna say your name because I respect confidentiality or whatever. Alright, so just gonna be talking about what you asked me about. Um, Manifestation. Forget all of this, okay? Let me just bring out a notepad. Now what we're gonna be doing, or like, is there something I can draw with? Draw pad. Paint, nice. Even as a draw pad. Okay. What we're gonna be looking at is pretty much. You got 3? Oh my days. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me. 3, 2, 1. I said before 1 is God, 2 is the angels, 3 is us, okay? And within us, this would be, like I said before, this is life or dick, this is mind or brain, and this is heart or soul. So essentially within us, there's a 1 which gives to a 2, a 2 which gives to a 3, and a 3 which gives to a 1. This is how it's supposed to be, right? Under the properties of the spirit. So if there's a 3 in the middle here, if we're acting, because there's a 3, so and we are the 3, so if we're acting like a 3, God will give to his angels, angels will give to us, and then we will give back to God through praise, of course, but also through du'as and asking him. And the main thing is, this is all happening within our heart, okay? So this is the main thing of manifestation, and how God is always listening to your heart, pretty much. And the angels are not just the angels, but it's what they've created, or anything that God has created other than the human, right? So, pani, khana, pretty much even relationships and all this stuff which angels do affect, right? Even like thoughts, emotion, feelings, anything that God created, okay? Even including us, pretty much. But we are separate from this because the main thing which makes us separate is will, free will, right? And the human heart pretty much is separate from your thoughts, so it's its own thing. But in the grander scheme of things, this is God, this is anything he created, and then this is us. So whatever we ask from God, he will behind this well, not behind the scenes, but see, this is us, so we can ask him and we receive from the world, and then we can ask him, and behind the scenes what's going on, and this is the origin, this happens first, is God is telling the world to give to us, right? So God is telling the world to give to us, make him born in a rich family, or he's operating behind the scenes, or make it rain today, and now it's raining for us. But as you can see, even 2 is kind of performing for us, and then we are actually performing for God in a direct sense, that anything, because God created this and he also created us, so anything, or here this is any action, any thought, any feeling, pure intention, right? Pure intention towards existence. God, you can also think of it as existence. I'm just gonna remove that. So anything we do towards existence, or any will we have, any intention, secret intention in our heart, he is ever wary about. And that's why, like, making dua, you don't even have to make it from your brain. You don't even have to think about making dua. You're always making dua. Your heart is always longing for something, and he always knows what it's longing for, and he'll deliver you what you're longing for through this, through the world. And the ways that you can make him deliver it to you is by, of course, like, doing good. It's by, of course, like, praying and being pious, being principled, giving charity, spreading truth, all this stuff. And but the main thing is, you have to accept that it only happened. That you can only spread truth, do good, or do any of this because he allowed you to get good, or he allowed you to get truth, you know? So pretty much that's why anything and everything is existence or God here, which is the one, because this is the whole thing that it came from him, it'll go back to him. So anything and everything that you're doing, everything, every thought, every movement is towards God. So the smaller things would be secret and, well, I wouldn't call this a small thing because it can be a large thing as well. Intention of the heart, but larger things would be action. Suppose you do bad, right? You're doing bad towards God, towards existence. So he's gonna give you still, but what he's gonna give you will also be kind of bad, right? And if you're doing good, then he'll give you, but what he'll give you will be good. Now here's where we can connect it to how we can actually get this stuff very fast, and not like through karma, not through good and bad deeds, but through only patience and humility and being humble towards God. And the whole thing is pretty much that what you have to do is accept that there's a greater existence, right? First, this is your will. Remember, this is your heart, okay? Forget that this is your dick, but this is your dick. And like anything, any memories, anything comes from this, right? That's why they say memories are stored in your ball, you know? Balls. It's actually makes a lot of sense. It's from it's a thing which keeps on kind of giving. Okay, anyways. And this is your mind and intelligence, all this stuff. So the way it works is you want to allow your intelligence to give to your will, to give to your heart, so that your heart, your will can give to God. And this goes back to the chakra things. Pretty much what I'm getting at here is, if this is your brain, let me draw it. 2, then you got your heart. 3, then you got your thing. Oh my. That's actually a pretty good drawing. 1, okay? So, through the spine now, right? Like I said before, through the spine, behind the scenes, because your heart isn't involved here, and you are your heart, God is giving to your brain. And now this is where you are involved, is that your brain will give to you, and then your heart will give back to him. So what's going on is your heart, which is you, right? And like it's written in the Quran and everything, God judges you by your heart's intentions or the secrets of your hearts and all this stuff. And you know, what are you willing to do? This is what makes us a human, is our heart. It's what are we willing to do? Because that's the one thing which makes us unique. So pretty much what's going on here is you gotta humble your heart to one. All right. Because what I've just drawn here is this: 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 1. But nowadays, one chicken, one tom, man soup. What we got is, for some reason, we have a lot of people. Most people, me and you included, actually, we're in this. Everyone is in this. I'll say, this is happening, regardless of the physical things. Like what karma is always gonna be real, but we're caught up in the illusion, which makes it so that it's kind of even more destructive to ourselves because we don't realize this. This is happening. All we have to do is realize this, right? But what we kind of get stuck on, and this illusion becomes a reality, by the way, is that what we get stuck on is pretty much we assign. Remember, I said the properties? We assign with the properties of the sun in the middle. And we start giving to the world instead of letting the world give to us. And the way I mean this is in a in your body level, pretty much, because in your body, your heart is representative of you, this is representative of God, and your mind is representative of others or the world. And everyone nowadays, chicken wonton soup, is overthinking, right? So what happens now here is, let's draw this out. Now your heart is starting to give to your brain. And the issue with this is, how is your heart going to experience the reward, you know? It's kind of longing for it, but it never really experiences it. And, you know, it's not like this is all the time. It's sometimes for a second, because you're gonna, you know, you are 3 in the middle. So sometimes for a second you'll return back to 3, and your heart, and you'll get it back, and you'll be like, wow, okay, nice, so this is working. But really, it's not. And it's really just because you're 3 for a second that you can kind of realize it or get the rewards. And what's going on here is extremely destructive, and this is where most of us are. Now let's draw it for 1, where this stays the same, this line for 3 to 2. Let me draw 1 in the middle. So we associate with the Father or the Son. Properties of the Son, which is this, and then properties of the Father, where now God is giving to us. And so now this line as well becomes different. And you would think, wow, so you can just experience it directly from Him, right? Yeah, kind of, but not really. And now you're giving it here. There's the same idea pretty much, that you're overcrowding your mind, and you're desiring too much from the world, okay? Instead of, and I'm not saying, oh, you desire from the world like it's bad. In the traditional sense, I'm saying you have to recognize that the world has a Lord, or existence, the universe is above the world. It's kind of, if we're a slave to the world, existence is a slave. No, I mean the world is a slave to existence. But I'm telling you, we're not even a slave to the world. We're actually a slave to existence, and so is the world. And so you just gotta realize that. So instead of you asking existence, because it either works both ways. Either you're humble, either this arrow is going this way, or the arrow is going that way. It's not like the arrow can just not exist. So if it isn't going this way, then it's gonna go that way, right? So now what happens is your heart is pretty arrogant in this sense. I'll get to that later. So now what happens is you can't actually you're not really experiencing, you're not experiencing it the way that it'll last, and you'll be calm, and you'll be, happy. No, you're gonna be stressed, especially in the mind, and that's the whole point here. But you will experience a reward. It's just A, it's not gonna be as good as you'd want it to be, and B, even if it is as good as you'd want it to be, the reward will go. And this seems to be the case with both of, if you're the Father or the Son, where the reward is just, it's not gonna last. Whereas in the case of 3, yeah, the reward doesn't last, but you're just constantly getting rewards, if that makes sense. Like, you're in a constant thing of getting rewards, and each reward is kind of, it's a lot better. And I'll get to why exactly, and how exactly you can like get these rewards, and what is God trying to tell us with all this. Well, whatever. Okay, so what am I trying to get at here, this weird kid? um what you got is, practically speaking, behind the scenes, which is the origin, like I said before. Now we're back to 3. And now I'm going to convince you why you should stay 3, and why you are 3, and why this is how God intended us to be 3. Behind the scenes, quite literally behind the scenes, through your spine, God is giving, okay? And so in the spine, God is giving, behind your heart isn't involved. In real life, the universe is commanding the world. God is commanding the world, okay? Now, into the scenes, the one which we're in, we start getting the rewards. You see, we're getting it. We're like, oh my God, I'm getting hot chicks and money. Okay, and now we start kind of asking for more. But in reality, this is how it is when we were babies. That 1 gave to 2, 2 gave to 3, 3 gave to 1. Now what you have to do is, since you're conscious of your heart pretty much, you have to correct it. And this would start being the origin of 3 giving to 1. Where, first thing first, you have to humble yourself to existence, to God. And you have to be humble enough to ask Him for something great, okay? Great, now you've asked Him for something. And you see how this happens in a moment? Okay, you've asked Him for something, and He'll take 2 moments to reach you, right? Because it's like twice as long. So, you gotta be patient. First, you be humble. And then, oh my days. Okay, and then you gotta be patient, which is this line. Okay? And then finally you can get the reward. And I'll explain why do people, because we were all originally threes, right? First we would be patient, then we would get a reward, and then we would be humble, and then yeah, we would be humble. But a lot of people don't be humble. I'll get to that why. What happens is, what tends to happen, just remember these lines. This is patience, this is humility, and this is a reward, okay? What tends to happen is people start associating, or I'll actually break it down first. What happens is that you start getting, or let's say first you're humble and you ask him for something, okay? First you ask him for something, and then you know you're not patient enough. So it takes you one moment to ask him, and you're expecting the reward in the next moment. So what you end up doing is then you start looking for it yourself. You don't just rely on existence. You start looking towards the world, because what you're asking for is from the world, right? It is a creation of his. And you start getting impatient, so you start seeking it out through different means, through this. And instead of, so now you've associated with the two, because now we're going back to the properties of two. As I just described, how that kind of happens is that your heart is humble enough to ask, but it's not patient enough to actually receive the reward. And that's why this arrow is going back now, because this was the reward, right? But now the reward isn't going to reach you because you weren't patient enough, and you started seeking it pretty much through other means. And you didn't have enough faith. It's not about asking again, it's just in your heart's intentions. It's like, it's not about faith even, it's more just like your heart started racing, it needed it, it started craving it. That's a very good way to describe it. It started craving it right now, next moment. So it got impatient and started looking for it. Whereas if it was just patient the whole time and waited, it would have eventually came to it. Right? And now comes why people become the father. And this is very interesting. So I'm going to go back to 3 now. Where so you were humble, you were patient, okay? You asked him, you got the reward, right? And then yeah, you asked him, he delivered you because you were patient, and then you got the reward. And then your heart gets a bit curious. You're like, wow, why do I even need to wait? It's like, I can just, why even wait? Pretty much, why be patient? Why be humble then? So you lose your humility because either you don't want to be patient or you just don't want to be humble anymore. And now what you've done is, because you've gotten the reward, and you're like, wow, I have the reward, it's with me right now, which is not true, because all rewards will go. And this is why 3 is so important, is that if you actually want the reward to stay and get more rewards, you have to be constantly humble and constantly patient, okay? And the reward will come. But now you're like, I already got the reward, or it's like, it's my reward, it's not gonna leave me. And so now you become arrogant, and your heart gets hard. And what happens is, pretty much, 1 starts giving to 3, and 3 starts giving to 2, because you are no longer patient. So you see how this line, even for the Son and the Father, it's still there, but it's not really being used. It's like, it's going to the 2, but it doesn't matter, because you're not actually experiencing what 1 is giving to 2. You're just too busy giving to 2 in this case, right? So this is why people associate then with the Father, is because they get the reward and they think like, wow, I'm special. God just gave me the reward, right? So they start expecting it directly from him, pretty much, and they're no longer patient to him or humble, because they're not humble enough to accept that, it wasn't them, that to accept that, like, it's not it's a process, or they aren't humble enough to be patient, or they're just not humble in general. They get arrogant hearts. This is what this thing is. Get an arrogant heart, and you start thinking you know it, right? So you start thinking like you don't need it anymore because you already got it. So you don't. So you know it all. Whatever. And for the one, it's three giving to one, or no, one giving to three, and then so God giving to you, and then you giving to the world. Very dark indeed. This is just one cut. I'm not gonna edit this anything, but I hope you found this interesting, big dog.